Welcome to the Drunk Dietitians podcast, co-hosted by your favorite tipsy registered dietitians, yours truly, Sammy Previtt, co-owner of Dietitians of Palm Valley, and Jenna Warner, owner of Happy, Strong, Healthy. Us dietitian besties can't stand diet culture bullshit and love keeping it real. Our mission is for all humans to believe that they are made for so much more than chasing a smaller body. We are also here to share with you that food can be fun and pleasurable again. Although we're medical professionals, we are human too. We are not afraid to share our deepest secrets and how years of our lives were taken by diet culture. We started this podcast so no human has to feel alone in their journey towards food freedom. So grab your favorite cocktail and join us for our favorite casual happy hour and expect to laugh, cry, learn, and grow. Cheers.
Welcome back, everyone. It's a solo Sam and Jenna episode today. No third person, just the two of us. We haven't done one of these in a while. And we have a topic that's like pretty overdue that we wanted to discuss today. And we thought that it was a perfect, what's today? It's September? No, it's October. It's the perfect fall day to discuss it. And seems pretty appropriate for this time of year and some of the conversations we've been having. So Sam, because I always forget to share the things that we're talking about or the guests that we have on the show when I give intros, do you want to cut into this one?
Yes. So I think it goes along well with I think back to our first episode of, we talked about our stories and why we're here and what our mission is, but we never really talked about the why behind Drunk Dietitians. So that's what we want to do today and talk about the evolution of our podcast and then also dig deeper into our personal relationships with alcohol, just like we talk about our relationship to food, our relationship to our body. I think, having the name Drunk Dietitians, we've definitely had an awakening of how this could be potentially causing harm to other people, although that wasn't necessarily our intention. Our intentions may be pure, but that doesn't matter if it is causing harm to others. So just kind of get into all things alcohol today.
And it's a super polarizing name. And I think that that's we acknowledge that. And at first we were looking through it from a lens of funny, and it may not be funny to many people. And I think that Sam and I have received feedback, which we're taking very, very seriously. And so we appreciate anybody who has shared their concerns about the name. And we're also recognizing, even just having this pre-conversation, that our intentions behind it were pure, but our relationship with alcohol is not problematic in our own words and views, and that's not the same for all of our listeners, and we apologize for anybody that we have hurt by the name of our podcast.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think, just as we acknowledge our, thin privilege on other episodes or our privileges, I think for me personally, I look at the name Drunk Dietitians and what it means to me, and I've been very fortunate to not have anyone close to me in my life that suffered from alcohol abuse or alcohol addiction. And I think for me personally, when I hear the word drunk, it's just it does have a tie to silliness and maybe even fun. I think back to college nights, which but I think that in that same breath, it's not something we're promoting, that we're saying people need to be drunk to have fun or to be silly or to be funny. And so it's just helping us kind of take a good hard look of where, and I think, and this will be fun to share both for you and for me, how our relationship with alcohol has changed throughout our life, but also even throughout this past year, and how even having the name Drunk Dietitians, it doesn't really suit us
Matt,
necessarily.
my husband, said the same thing the other day. He was like, after we received certain feedback that I was just kind of sharing with him, he was like, yeah, I don't really get it. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it doesn't have anything to do with either one of you at all. And I'm like, but that's not true. Like, I love a good dark beer. Like, I used to never drink dark beer because diet culture said not to. And like, now I'm like, it tastes like chocolate milk. Like, give me more. And he's like, but that doesn't mean like anything about the name of your podcast. Like, you can tell people to enjoy certain things, but it has nothing to do with being drunk. And he's like, when's the last time you were drunk? And I was like, that's not a fair question right now.
Yeah.
But like,
Not
the
a fair
reality,
question with pregnancy.
but the reality is that it's been a long time, and it is a conversation that I have with my clients as well. As like, you know, there's a difference between enjoying a glass of wine, a drink, you know, a flight even, or, you know, going to a wine tasting, these types of experiences versus the intentions to go out and, you know, to get drunk is just different. It's very different. And that's part of the relationship with alcohol that I think that we can discuss today. And again, you know, it's just funny because I never thought about these things when we made this name of the podcast, but I also never thought about happy, slim, healthy back in the day and how damaging that could be too. So this is part of our growth, right?
Yes. we love to just fuck up publicly and then let everyone else watch us do that, but then grow from it. So hopefully this is helpful. But I think back to when we were like, no, we're definitely going to do this. Like, I think we were enjoying like a few glasses of rosé and we were giggling about how stupid diet culture is and how much we hate it. And like, you know, drunk dietitians kind of came to be. So I think if anything, it just showcases growth and continuing to learn, which is literally everything that we preach with intuitive eating. And so let's like dive into our relationships with alcohol. Like, you go first, Jenna. Tell me about it.
So, you know, I think it's important to note that, you know, there is a history of alcoholism in my family, not in my direct mother, father, brother family, but down the line. And growing up, my mom used to always tell me, like, you know, when college and high school parties and things, you know, when kids start like dabbling in alcohol, like she always used to say, like, you're the direct relative of an alcoholic, like, it's, you know, be mindful. And she used to always tell me those things. And I never really enjoyed alcohol. So it never really was something that was problematic for me then. And then college, I mean, I went to Penn State and our weekends were Tuesday through Sunday. So I think that like legitimately Tuesday through Sunday, I was drinking and my relationship with alcohol completely changed. Without saying that I regret any of that because it was a learning experience, I never, though, at the same time allowed myself to get too far, which is different. And I think that there's many people that maybe have a different story about a college experience. My relationship with alcohol was unhealthy. And just like my relationship with food was, I used to not eat all day just so that I could drink because I knew alcohol had calories. And I also had no money in college. And so it was like, how could I get drunk faster? Right. And so for me, you know, it was incredibly unhealthy. But as I grew up, I mean, into the now, I mean, I was drinking wine out of a bag in college because it was cheap. And now I'm like, I actually like the taste of wine. Like, that's growth, right? But obviously now I'm pregnant and I'm not drinking at all. But I miss the taste of like a really stout, dark beer. And like, I enjoy those things. But, you know, and I don't even think I'm doing a good job of explaining this story, but the reality is that I've never abused alcohol. And so for me personally, the relationship with alcohol was unsettling for a long time because I was entrenched in diet culture and would drink the vodka sodas, even though I hated them because they had the least amount of calories, and would never allow myself to have wine or beer because it had more calories in my head, which is not even true for all instances. But, you know, it was very much a product of how could I do this and not gain weight, which is an unhealthy times two. So from the perspective of, you know, where I am now, I think dating and being married and, you know, date night and having the ability to enjoy a glass of wine together or a fun beer or something like that was really important to us, and really instrumental in our relationship, myself and my husband. And, you know, to be able to enjoy those things on whatever night of the week, not just like a Saturday night, was also like part of the growth for us. But at the same time, again, recognizing privilege, and although there is a history of alcoholism in my family, it did not directly impact me. And so how I counsel clients about alcohol is, you know, it's considered the fourth macronutrient, air quoting heavily, because alcohol has a caloric impact, but it's not a food group, whereas diet culture will allow it. I'm talking to UF Factor, will allow it with breakfast, lunch, and dinner as your carb choice. That's not how it works. And so I now talk to clients about how they can enjoy it if they want it, but it's not a conversation. It's not a way that I use to sell nutrition and this lifestyle of balance and freedom with like, oh, you can drink. No, like if you want to, of course you can have one safely, healthfully, and whatever one you want, but it's not going to be like in a nutrition plan that's created for you, like with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I think that that was a roundabout way of saying that I've abused it in the past, but only to a point. And now I really miss my stout beers now that I'm not drinking them. I stopped. There's a brewery here, and I'm at my mom's right now. There's a brewery like down the street that makes this one beer that is actually brewed with ice cream, and it tastes like ice cream. It's a stout beer that's like, it's called the Cosmonaut, and it's brewed with astronaut ice cream, and it tastes like chocolate ice cream to me. And before I got pregnant, I was drinking them very often, and it's all I can think about at this moment. So that's my answer. I hope that I answered it somewhat. Your turn.
No, I think it's super helpful. And I think it's important for people to just understand, like, of course, everyone's relationship with alcohol is different. Before I jump into mine, I want to piggyback off your take of, you know, F factor and diets that like include alcohol or almost promote it. And I think what's really important to note is that like alcohol, when we see the marketing around it, so when it's like low sugar, low carb, like alcohol breaks down into ethanol. And I think that's what, like, there's this big like misconception and like the how it breaks down in our body and how it's used. And like you said, it provides calories, but it doesn't use those calories for energy. Like it literally can't. Our body, when alcohol goes into our body, it literally, like, sirens are going off saying like toxic, toxic, toxic. And our body's trying very hard to get rid of it. And I think there's this big misconception about like how alcohol breaks down. So that could almost be like a whole nother episode, is like how alcohol breaks down in our body. But I think it's important to ask, you know, others before I even share my experience with alcohol. Like, I invite listeners to journal, like, what is your relationship with alcohol like? Because I think that when we look at diet culture, people try to say like, oh, I don't eat carbs. But like, yeah, like I drink wine, but like I don't eat carbs. But then like when we look at a wine bottle and we flip it over and the governor's warning says like can cause harmful health effects, if we slid a plate of food across the table and said like can cause harmful health effects, like nobody would eat it. But because it's alcohol, there's this like, it's different, right? There's the social aspect, there's the sex appeal that marketing sells. There's, you know, it's a really complex topic. But so I love that
point.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up though, about like dieting and I think, you know, Christy Harrison definitely in one of her food psych podcast episodes goes into alcohol. I think it was like a listener question. But yeah, like alcohol is not food, it's not energy, but like being able to assess it, like you said, of growth. Like, can I enjoy a glass of wine on a Monday night date night and know like I'm allowed to have this and I enjoy it and that be it, right?
Then the cool thing about like the growth aspect of this conversation with, I think, the clients that I'm sure we both had this discussion with is, you know, it comes back to my favorite sentence that you've taught me about intentions, right? Like, you know, do you want to have a second glass of wine or a third? If your intentions behind it are you're enjoying the conversation and you're okay with how you will feel afterwards, like if you understand your limits, right? It comes down to a choice. But if you're lucky enough to, privileged enough to have a relationship with alcohol, that it's okay to make that choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big disclaimer, I think. But I think that a lot of the times I speak with clients who are like, I had 2 glasses of wine and I feel like shit the next day. And it's like, okay, make a mental note of that. You know, do I want to feel like this again the next day, or am I okay with just having one? I hear from a lot of people that their relationship with alcohol isn't great, and like one is like a waste. But why? I would challenge, like, why? Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's like a diet culture brain fuck that we've all kind of been taught for so long, that it's wasted empty calories. But why, if you're enjoying it and you're enjoying the company that's around it, right? So there's like so much that goes into this topic. We were like, this will be 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, it'll definitely be longer. But no, I think that's a really good point, because just like food, you know, with emotional eating and or like consuming to a point of physical unpleasantness, I think that gets coupled with emotional unpleasantness and people beat themselves up. And that same thing with, like you said, if you have 2, 3, 4 glasses of wine and you feel like shit the next day, instead of judging yourself and creating shame around that, can you ask yourself with curiosity, why did I do that? Where is that coming from? Because alcohol does have a chemical effect that creates numbing, and it, you know, pushes emotions down. So it's a whole different ballgame than food because of that, but it can be enjoyed in moderation. But let me tell you that my story did not start with alcohol in moderation, because I also went to Penn State. And I think with Penn State, with, you know, state school, college parties, all that kind of fun stuff, it's unfortunately so rampant. And I think it's like that, it's like a normalized like college culture. But even for me, hopefully we can't get like in trouble for things we say on here that we did in the past. But, you know, looking at my high school career, whatever that means, being in high school and our school, like, I hate even like saying this. It makes me want to just slap myself across the face, but like the cool kids drank, and that's what you did. Like if you wanted to be cool, then you did that. And, you know, I was very surrounded by a group of people that were very into drinking and had older siblings that could get the alcohol. And that was something that at the age of 16, I started drinking. And I look back now and I'm like, dear Lord Jesus Christ, help me. But again, like you said, Jenna, I don't regret any of this. I don't look back and shame myself or guilt myself. If anything, I look back at my relationship with alcohol and I look at it now and it makes sense where I'm at now. But so going through high school, like I thought cool kids drank. I thought to be cool, to have social status, like that's what you did.
I'm sure Penn State made that a lot different for you.
Penn State just drilled that into your head. And like you said, Tuesday through Sunday was your weekend where you had we've talked about this on a previous episode, but it was
Gaff
like
Tuesdays.
Yeah, like Gaff Tuesdays, Indigo Wednesdays, Mad Mex Thursdays, or it might have been Mad Mex Tuesdays. Anyways, like G-Man Friday, like continue. So it was what you did. And again, like love my friends. This is nothing to, like, this is no reflection on anyone but myself, because I did have the ability to not drink as much. But, you know, we binge drank and we did exactly what you said, Jenna. You find the cheapest wine, the Vladimir vodka.
I could honestly vomit.
You know, Burnett's like flavored vodka. I'm literally shaking as I'm saying these
99
things.
bananas.
Oh my God. Holy shit. So you would find, I'm literally having physical reactions. That's
same.
You would find these things that you would say, like, how can I get as drunk as possible, as quick as possible, as cheap as possible? thinking that that would make it more fun.
And show up to my nutrition class the
Oh,
next day.
well, kudos to you for showing up to class. Let's just say that. And so that's a total side note, but I'll have so many RDs to be like direct message me like, oh my God, I'm so like thankful for your work and what you do. Like, how did you get to where you are? And they're like telling me all these amazing things they're doing. And I'm like, you're going to be just fine. Like if you knew who I was previously. But then I think about, okay, Penn State, what came after Penn State? Well, dietetic internship / going into Hoboken, which Jenna and I both lived in Hoboken, is an extension of Penn State and has more bars in 1 square mile than
literally
any.
Skipped right over that.
Yeah, you forgot about that. But that was also at the peak of your disordered eating. So do you 100%. Feel like, I feel like you were like more like away from alcohol at that point and more like working out?
I mean, it was, I was traumatized the night that my trainer, when I lived in Hoboken, saw me at Green Rock and was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. Like I had 2 drinks in my hand. And I remember like after that, he was like, we'll talk about this. I'm like, okay. And it was, for me, like pre-marriage, like getting ready for my wedding, which was when my disorder like really got bad. That was when it was really explained to me in non-nutritious ways, in diet culture words, of what alcohol was doing to my progress, quote, 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 heavy air quotes right now. Right. Mm-hmm. Because my relationship with both of those things were just so skewed with all 3 of those things: fitness, nutrition, and alcohol. So I stopped, going out with my friends, and I stopped enjoying stuff like that because I couldn't balance that. I couldn't fathom being there and not taking part of it, and then being there and doing that because it would, in my trainer's words at the time, ruin my progress, which is so fucked up. And it's like, it's so unfair. And I think back on, again, don't regret, but I think back on all of the memories that I missed out on, and it's a problem. It's sad.
Yeah, that's a part of that diet culture, stealing memories for sure.
And time.
Yeah. And I think back to Hoboken, I think I shared this on a previous episode of when I met my now husband. Like when
I was with her that night.
Yeah, which we were being force fed wine at a beautiful work. Amazing wine. And yeah, but like I met my husband, and I think at that point I had like gone out like 14 nights in a row. And it was like, it wasn't that I was binge drinking to a state of blackout, but like happy hour with your girlfriend in the city, with your girlfriends in the city, and, work things and all that kind of stuff. And he was just like, are you like, okay? And I was like, what? Like, this is normal. This is New York. Like, and I think, it is normalized, and it is such a social thing. And then so fast forward completely to now, like I maybe, like there are definitely times I'll have a few cocktails, but I mean, I maybe have like a drink a week, and I'm like, and even that, I'll wake up the next day and I'm like, ugh, like I don't feel good. Like it just doesn't sit well. And I think that comes back to the intuitive eating practice of reconnecting with your body, trusting your body. How does it feel? And knowing that you can be completely present in a moment and not have to have fun with alcohol, and know that if you feel better without it, like that's totally okay. And that is something I know I've counseled a lot of people on, especially all my local folks. Like Ponte Vedra is a very like hoity-toity, like it's kind of like the New Yorkie like vibe of alcohol is just like expected to be in the social scene. Right. So how do you separate that and say like, I don't have to have this, which is really.
And I think that there's so many points of this, and I think that there's 2 people that we're talking to right now, 2 groups of people, right? If you are somebody who has a history of alcoholism or are very triggered by the title of this, our explanation of this word was rooted in the right intention, which we understand now with everything that's gone on in this world, that intentions really don't matter if they upset other people, right? Yeah. So like, so we're recognizing that. And we also want to just state that at first it was kind of like, oh, let's use this polarizing term because it's a way to get people's attention. And it's really hard to get people's attention saying like, we want to heal your relationship with food. Like people are like, okay, cool. Like that doesn't work. Like we wanted to get you to listen in a way that would really get you and capture your attention. Right. And what we have kind of discussed off air is like, we wanted a place where we could talk about the things that are not often talked about, right? And whereas we use this word to kind of describe that, again, I see now more than ever that like, maybe our future planning of our next secret that we're going to reveal is overdue. But at the same time too, I do want to speak to, like Sam was just saying, to the people that are struggling with their relationship with alcohol in a space of diet culture, right? Or trying to get out of diet culture and told that you can have wine at dinner if you don't have your carbs, or you can have a vodka soda because it has the least amount of calories, but you hate vodka and you hate seltzer. That was me. I hate seltzer. Like I don't like it. And I was like chugging these things because that was what I was told, right? And it's okay to choose the drink that has the simple syrup in it. And it's okay to choose the sangria or any of these items if you want it. And I think that's really like the biggest point here, that it's hard to say that alcohol, like that fearing a food is more dangerous for you than actually eating that food, right? Unless you're allergic to it, there's very few things that could come from that by having the cookie, right? If you fear the cookie, that's more harmful for your body than actually eating it. We've said that so many times. But with alcohol, you can't really say that because we don't know on a broad scale or like a mass scale who we're talking to. So I think we just wanted to make it really clear of who we are talking to right now. And if your relationship with alcohol is safe or somewhat healthy, that it's important to note that, fearing the specialty cocktail on your favorite menu is not doing you any good. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think also pulling in that another group, like a third group, would be the group that's listening, that's saying, I think I'm using alcohol in a way that's hurting me. Right.
Smart,
So,
yes.
so I think, when the kids go to bed and my husband goes to bed and I just pull out the wine because I just want to feel numb, or I just want to relax, or, when I go out with my girls, I just want to get obliterated because I don't want to think about what's going on at home, or, whatever that thing is, or, people that maybe are afraid to show their sexuality or whatever it is. And they're using that as a coping mechanism to just numb themselves and not have to feel. And that is also something that I would say is very, very common. And I know a lot of my clients have used previously. So of course, if there's ever a point where alcoholism is diagnosed or a part of the conversation or need those additional resources, we will absolutely refer out. But if it is something that we can talk about and dig deeper into of why am I using alcohol? What is my relationship with alcohol like? And I think those are questions that we can all really ask ourselves. Because I know I never even thought about this shit until I became an intuitive eater. I just thought like, you drink to be cool. You have to drink to have fun. You have to get obliterated. And that was like always, that's how I grew up. That's what I was surrounded by. That's how it was. And now if like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love tequila, but like, I don't. But I don't know. And I think, and it can change, right? There's some nights where I'll notice like, I'm really sad or I'm really upset and I don't want to reach for the drink because I know that that's not going to make me feel better. Right. So sometimes it's being able to recognize like, we need to feel these emotions. We don't need to cover them. And so like we've been saying this whole time, this episode is so many different tangents. We're just throwing so much spaghetti shit at a wall and seeing if it sticks. But I think it's important to have these, just having these honest conversations and where the name came from, even though our intentions may have been pure, if it's hurting people or if it's harming people, that's the last thing that we want. And so we want to have a name that's going to resonate with everyone and that's going to represent, who we are.
Let's make this a contest. Who's going to name us? Come on.
Yeah.
DM us, message us, email us, whatever it is, help us rebrand. It is a conversation that we've been having for a long time, but we kind of always, and I think it's really easy to convince yourself that there's no harm being done, right? Like that's what I did when I was happy, slim, healthy. It wasn't harmful. Oh my God. Like I'm out of my fucking mind. Like, right? Like there's just so many things. Like when I was exercising obsessively, it wasn't harmful. It was for my health. Like, no, but this is something that, you know, whether it was never obviously meant to harm, but there's like a growth point that I think we've reached. And let's just celebrate too, that we've been recording for a year.
Woo!
I think maybe November will be a year.
Okay.
But it's been just about a year that we've been recording, and we've outgrown this name. And we want to be an all-inclusive space for all human beings. And, you know, this no longer suits us.
Yes. So if we haven't made it abundantly clear enough, as if I haven't changed names enough, there's something about me and rebranding that I just love. But I think, you know, we're ready for a new name. And as Jenna said, direct message us, email us, send us a note, because we want this to be a forever thing. We want it to embody everyone, every shape, every size, every color, gender, sexuality, etc. And so how do we create a name that suits us
and speaks to all of you?
Yeah. I have no idea what that is.
Same.
And so we're not gonna rush. We could change it to just fun dietitian.
Can you tell that story, please? Because that was so funny.
Which one?
Being a cool dietitian.
Yeah, well, I feel like when I think about drunk dietitians, when I think about what the word drunk used to mean to me, it used to mean cool. So I think of like a Mean Girls where she's like, I'm a cool mom. So I'm like, I think of like drunk dietitians being like, we're cool dietitians. Like, you know, but that is so dumb. And
No.
yeah, we need a brand specialist. So whoever is in branding and all that kind of stuff, like we need you, because
we're talking to you right now.
Yes, send this to your friends if they work in branding, send this to agencies. I don't know, but we have a hell of a platform, and I can only imagine what's going to happen as
we're very close to hitting 100,000 downloads, by the way. I've been checking. We're really close. And again, I know we've said this recently, but we so appreciate you all here. And please know that our intentions behind this space, again, knowing that they don't always matter, but our intentions are to inspire you to live your lives and to increase the satisfaction in your life, and to be in love with the life and the life you live and the person that you are without diet culture, which Evelyn's episode aired already. And by 2025, $300+ billion industry that's everywhere. We're this little voice that we just want you to hear, like a little chirp that we just want you to hear. I just snorted. But
we just want to be in this safe space together.
So whatever you take away from this, please know that, you know, at the end of the day, nobody likes a vodka soda. Just throwing that out there.
That's your big takeaway from today's episode.
Likes a vodka soda.
That's great.
But whatever your relationship is, I think Sam's journal prompt a couple minutes ago, whenever that was, is really important. And if you've never asked yourself that question before, like, start there.
Yeah, it's a great place to start. And then just know on our ends, like we've had multiple people give us similar feedback to what we've talked about this episode, and we've heard it. We were thankful for it. And, you know, there is definitely a change coming. We don't want to rush, because we want to make sure that whatever we move forward with, that it fits us perfectly, and that we can continue to grow into.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Guys, thank you so much for listening and being here with us. I am virtually cheersing all of you. We absolutely loved sipping on a cocktail with you and sharing as many nutrition tipsies as possible during this episode. We know there are a ton of pods out there, and we are so appreciative of your time that you spent listening to us today. Please be sure to check out the show notes for episode details and all of our guest information. We promise to keep bringing you the best and the most knowledgeable and fun guests we possibly can. Please be sure to subscribe, like, share, and post if you enjoyed our content today. And visit us on Instagram and Facebook at Drunk Dietitians to find out what is up next for us on the pod. We absolutely love you. We appreciate you and can't wait to spend more time cheersing with you soon.